Welcome to Effortless Launch Formula, the bonus session with Jun Tang. I'm Gina Decker, and I'm your instructor for this course. And I know this is kind of rare that we're doing a bonus call, but I wanted to make sure you guys had this information because I get a lot of questions about video. And if you don't have time to write copy, then a lot of times you can substitute the copy that you would normally write with video, but a lot of people make a lot of mistakes with video, and so I wanted to get an expert on here. And if you're not familiar with Jun, I'm going to go ahead and read off his bio so you can learn a little bit more about him. But Jun Tang is a filmmaker and photographer. Jun started his career in the entertainment industry in front of the camera as an editor. After relocating to Los Angeles, he turned his attention behind the camera and focused on helping other entrepreneurs, artists, and business professionals to create video content. He believes in the intangible of being on camera is helping his client be authentic. What does that mean? It means that when he helps his clients deliver their message on camera, they're comfortable and completely aligned with their story. So welcome, Jun.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, all right. So
how do you like this dramatic lighting?
Yes, we met, I don't know when we met. It was probably in the fall at JVX, which is my annual networking event. And, I was just really immediately impressed by your knowledge of video, and so we stayed in touch, and I'm so glad you can be here to give some tips to my folks on video production and how to make a good home studio. But before we jump into that, I would like to start with a little bit of emotional freedom technique tapping. And so I have a video up here from Brad Yates, who's my favorite tapping YouTuber, and I'm just going to share the screen and see if I can get Brad's video up. Okay, so screen share, here he is. I always like to start with mindset because a lot of the launch really is mindset. So if you're scared of visibility, if you're just scared of making money, whatever it is, this is just a money magnet quickie. And I like this video because it's only about 4 minutes long. But I'll go ahead and play this. We'll see if we can hear it. Okay, karate chop. I am attracting more and more money. And I choose to love and accept myself. I'm attracting more and more money. I'm attracting more and more money. And I choose to love and honor myself. And I choose to love and honor myself. I am attracting more and more money. I'm attracting more and more money. I choose to be an even stronger money magnet. I choose to be an even stronger money magnet. I choose to be irresistible to money. I choose to be irresistible to money. I'm attracting more and more money. I'm attracting more and more money. I choose to deeply and completely. I choose to deeply and completely love, honor, and accept myself. Love, honor, and accept myself. Anyone else who might be involved. And anyone else who might be involved. I'm attracting more and more money. I'm attracting more and more money. I'm allowing myself to attract more money. I'm allowing myself to attract more money. I'm letting myself know that it's okay. I'm letting myself know that it's okay. For more money to show up in my life. For more money to show up in my life. I choose to be really comfortable with money. I choose to be really comfortable with money. I choose to feel really good about money. I choose to feel really good about money. Such that money finds me irresistible. Such that money finds me irresistible. It comes looking for me. It comes looking for me. And I welcome it with open arms. I welcome it with open arms. And I'm becoming more and more okay with that. And I'm becoming more and more okay with that. Clearing any reasons
Clearing any reasons.
Why it's not okay to attract more money.
Why it's not okay to attract more money.
Allowing myself to feel good.
Allowing myself to feel good.
Allow myself to feel good.
About being a money magnet.
About being a money magnet.
I'm getting better and better at how I use money.
And I'm getting better and better about how I use money.
I'm using money in really good ways.
I'm using money in really good ways.
I'm becoming a better steward of my money.
I'm becoming a better steward of my money.
Money.
Making really good choices about how I spend it and how I save it.
Making really good choices about how I spend it and how I...
Saving, right?
Yeah.
Clearing any reason why I can't be an excellent money manager.
Clearing any reason why I can't be an excellent money manager.
So that it becomes better and better for me to attract money.
So it becomes better and better for me to attract money.
For me to attract money.
I'm allowing myself to attract more money.
I'm allowing myself to attract more money.
Becoming a super strong money magnet.
Becoming a super strong money magnet.
Allowing myself to feel really good about that.
Allowing myself to feel really good about that.
Body, mind, spirit.
In body, mind, and spirit.
Good.
Take a deep breath. Allow yourself to attract more and more money for the highest good of all concerned.
Cool. All right. Thank you for that. I'm going to go stop the screen share. Yeah. Any takeaways about the tapping? Because I know when you're investing in a home studio, you're going to be spending money. So sometimes blocks come up around that. I know for me, whenever I'm investing in a new piece of technology or even investing in coaching, I mean, there's always this kind of concern that comes up around money. And so this is why, I work on it. And for those of you, who are listening to the replay who are not familiar with tapping, it really operates off of, the acupuncture points. And it feels a little bit silly at first, but I've gotten really good results from it. I've manifested a honeymoon in Italy with it. It just, it works. And so that's why I use it. But yeah, from a scientific point of view, it was very weird when I started tapping. But, I definitely noticed that when I'm about to invest in, technology or even about to do a launch, like the money issues come up. And so June, do you have any kind of takeaways from that?
I have an addition, I guess you could say.
Sure.
Yeah, one of the things that I have repeatedly done is invest in gear and go, oh, this is not right for me. And then try this one and then try that one. And that's the thing with what I do. I'm always testing gear. Sometimes you can read everything about it and you're like, wow, that's a perfect fit. And you get it home and you're like, oh, actually it's not. There's something missing. Or it's like, oh, you know what? That one feature that I wanted wasn't more important with another feature I found out that I need now. So then you try to probably sell that back, return it, refund it, and then look for, oh, I want more portability. I want something that's battery powered, stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because when you're working with technology and even hardware, equipment, sometimes you have to be open to returning it, just because it may not be what you originally anticipated you needed. And sometimes it does take a little bit of trial and error. So it's just being comfortable with that. And I know for myself, at least when I first got started with video, I actually just had an assignment in college. And I was supposed to record a PowerPoint presentation for one of my college classes. And so my college, University of Nevada, Reno, had a media library, and you could actually check out the technology from the media library. So I got the fancy camera, checked it out for the weekend, recorded my presentation, and then went back to the media library and had them help me transfer the video from, the storage card on the camera to, a Mac, which I don't really use Macs that much, but there were Macs in the media library, and then we used iMovie to kind of trim
Correct.
the ends of the video, and it was definitely a process, and it wouldn't be something that I would have just figured out on my own, so I was so happy that there was like a technician there in the studio, the media library, to kind of give me some tips, because I didn't really have any clue, other than checking out the camera, hitting record, like how to do any of that. So yeah, I mean, that's a really good point, June, because like a lot of times, we buy stuff because we don't have a media library in a college that we can go and rent it, and so, sometimes it just doesn't work, and you have to be open to changing.
Correct.
Yeah, sweet. Okay, so we have a couple topics to cover today, and let's start with the camera kit for your home studio. So if you're on a budget, $500 to $1,000, and you're really wanting to do more video and incorporate it in your business, what do you suggest?
Wow, that's a really great question. Depending on one of the biggest things I look for is, see, this is actually a perfect example. I didn't even know I was going to use this, but like, say for instance, I'm on a Mac right now, and it's going to just absorb the amount of light. And actually, it's pretty bright here, but since our conversation, you're like, you could barely see me, so I had to bring my another portable light, and it's literally like less than 2 feet away from me. So it has that really dramatic lighting. So let's just talk about that. I always look for what's called ISO, which is the light sensitivity of the camera. So like, say for instance, if I was shooting not with my MacBook, but with my professional gear, I could actually turn off all the lights and you could see me perfectly fine. And why that's very important about light sensitivity is because the more light that you have to add in, like this light that I have right here in front of me, I'm going to sweat. And that's not good for camera. And look at, you see a little shininess. So, of course, the stuff that's happening to me right now, I wouldn't recommend it if you were shooting a professional video for you offering your module. This is live, so this is way different. Live, you could get away with a lot of things and people would accept it. But if you were selling a high module, enrolling coaching module or whatever that's going to be evergreen, then you want a higher quality. You want better light sensitivity, so you don't have to put so much light and then sweat and then use makeup and then sweat makeup. So don't want to do that. So light sensitivity is really important.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because when I first started doing video, I kind of experimented with different rooms in my house. I really just had my cell phone that I was kind of pointing at my face, and it wasn't on a tripod or anything, so it was bumpy. And I definitely noticed, when I go back and see, the progression between, I just have like a pregnancy vlog that I was doing, like the first video to even this video that I most recently did for YouTube. Like, there was a big difference in, just the production quality of things that I learned from making mistakes during those, first couple of videos. And lighting, you kind of don't think about it, but if you're backlit and you have a window right behind you, usually that is not very good. So,
right.
Yeah, so, and you do have a camera that you recommended. I'll just screen share to see if we can get this camera here. This is a camera, and you don't have to necessarily get this camera, but it's just, it's an example of a camera that you might recommend. So this is a Canon EOS.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about this camera?
Yes, the reason why I was picking this camera, I mean, Nikon could have an equivalent. The reason I picked this one is, what we talked about earlier. The earlier generation, the T2i, was used on The Matrix. And if a major production company used this, and there was a scene where he was like, falling, and they would just have a bunch of circle around him. This was what they used to capture all that image. Not exact setup, but the camera, the version was an earlier version. The other thing I would recommend about this is that it has everything ready for you. Tripod, camera, lens. And also the lens that they selected, the 18 to 55, is highly recommended just because it's going to mimic. The most important thing about shooting video is you also want it to mimic the eye as much as you can. And that's why, like, say for instance, if someone was creating a video and it looks all like wide angle distorted and their face looks kind of like elongated, that's because of the lens. And the lens, you want it to be as close as what we see in the eye. Not too wide and not too narrow.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I like that this is almost like an all-inclusive thing, you know, because I remember when I first, you know, was just checking out the stuff from the media library, like I didn't have a tripod at home. You know, I didn't know how to hook that up. Like they had to demo it for me. Like I didn't really quite understand all of that. But
Yeah.
I mean, this is a cool camera. And I think my husband has something somewhat similar.
Nice.
You know, but it's got the storage card, you know, it's got, I mean, man, all of these hookups, like it seemed a little bit overwhelming. So, like any tips of like if somebody's going to go out and buy this, like where to get started, or would they hire somebody like you to kind of just do it for them the first time and show them, or what would you recommend?
That's a great question I didn't think of. Well, the first one is a major thing that you definitely want to get is the camera, memory card, the camera. Move to your left, that's the memory card.
Mm-hmm.
Go down is your tripod, and then your lens. Those are necessary, like to get your video going. And then everything else, literally, you could, you know, do without if you wanted to. Like those, you know, the filters on the bottom and all that stuff, you could do without. So.
Okay. Very cool. All right. So, and you also, I mean, we'll talk about sound a little bit more, but you did recommend a lavalier mic.
Yes.
And so, and of course, you know, there's all kinds of lavalier mics. You can get one for like $10. But why this lavalier mic, and what does that actually do? What does a lavalier mic do?
Well, a lavalier is basically something when you clip it, usually a lot of people clip it right on their shirt or, and it's black and you can't see it. Well, unless you're wearing white. The reason I selected that one is because the clarity of the sound for what you get, it's, you know, as far as quality, you know, I totally admit I am not above, you know, trying the cheaper one. But then it also goes back to all the things that I bought, and I'm like, oh, I could see why the more expensive is more expensive. And it's just that little one feature, or it just sounds clear. And you really don't know until you start editing it, or you play it on something with kind of speakers and you could hear all the mistakes. So you don't know how your client is going to view your material, if they're going to hear all the imperfections. So, you know, $60 and you're going to use it for years to come. So I would invest in that because like I said, I bought the cheaper version, and when I got it home, I'm like, wow, there's just that one feature that separates something from like $30 to $90. So when you get into, you know, I think, yeah, especially technology, when there's that one cool feature, like I'm going to go off on a tangent, like from the iPhone 6 to the iPhone 6S is where you could like photograph yourself and it has a flash and the other one doesn't have a flash. And you're like, wow, that's flash costs $200. And you're like, wow. So, but you need it for certain stuff. So you might as well just invest in it. And this is not a one-off. This is not like you use it and you throw it away. You use it and you keep it for your future. So.
Yeah, that's a really good point, you know, between, you know, kind of keeping equipment, you know, as temporary thing, you know, because sometimes people, you know, we talk about this earlier in the course, you know, the strategy, you know, and we want to have like minimal technology in the first iteration of the launch, you know, because you have a small budget and you're really just testing an idea. But the second iteration and the third iteration is you're, you know, adding JV partners. You want to level up each time, you know, having good copy, having good video, having good just technology. And so, I mean, a lot of times this really is just an investment in your next level up. When you charge more in the next iteration of your course, provided that, some of the students in this class have already done their pilot, and so the next time they launch, they're going to level up. And so, this is really important to know, okay, just have the confidence that, you're going to be using, some systems and technology that will kind of be over the lifetime of your business versus just when you're testing an idea and split testing something.
Yeah. Perfect example. There's a cheaper version of this light that I'm using here, but the reason I chose this, so my light's going to change for a second. I could show you, and it's going to turn dark, but this is battery powered. See that? There's no strings attached. Just batteries. So that's very important for me. And the form factor. You see how, of course, now if I do like this, you can see how the lighting changes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And this is battery power. It's super light. It all depends on what's more priority for you, for whoever. See, for me, it's portability, and I have 3 of this, and only one is lighting up right now, so it has that really dramatic look. But I have 2 more of those. They're all battery powered, so I could just travel wherever. But that's an investment I did, because now I know, like, oh, okay, we don't have any plugs, no problem, I can still shoot.
Yeah, well, that's good because, cords, if you're trying to, maneuver cords around, you're not always in a location where you can do that easily. So it's great to have a battery powered, lighting source. Do you have any more lighting tips as far as, kind of what to do, what not to do about lighting? I know there's natural lighting, there's the equipment type lighting. So any tips about lighting?
Yes. Well, for lighting, depending on, a lot of people, when they light, definitely you don't want to have any shiny skin. So, make sure you have powder foundation, even if you're a guy, because you can see how mine's kind of shiny a little bit.
I wore makeup today, very matte foundation. So
there you go. I mean, so it's funny. When you're dealing with video, you deal with so many different things. You're dealing with your camera, your lighting, your sound. Then you're going to talk about makeup and then all that stuff. So as far as lighting, I always try to get 3-point lighting. Like I said, I have 3 of these. I always like to light from the front. And typically, if I was to shoot this for, a module or whatever you could say, and not just run and gun and raw, this is just raw. There's a diffuser over it, which softens everything, and it makes it a little bit more approachable, meaning it's not very harsh. So let's see, what else is another good tip? You want the larger the lighting source, the better. So that's why they say windows and stuff like that, because you have this big light source. This is a small lighting source. So actually, here, let me show you this. How a smaller lighting source could do. So here's another battery power, and it's smaller. So I'm going to turn this on, and it's going to be smaller than the one I have. And you could see how harsh the lighting is going to look. So I'm going to turn this down, and I'm going to put this right here. See how much crazier and harsher? Let me see if I can do that.
It's almost like if you were doing a ghost show, it's like the flashlights and everything. Yeah. It just, it reminds me of almost like a flashlight type.
Yeah. So actually that's a perfect example, perfect analogy. The smaller it is, the more pinpoint, and it looks more like a flashlight. The larger it is, the softer it becomes. So this one, I'm going to put it back on here. So that's a great analogy, where the smaller it is, then it's going to look like a flashlight, and you really don't want it to look like a flashlight. So I turned those on, had it ready just to show you the dramatic look. This is a little more diffused. Again, this is actually a limitation of the MacBook, because it's pretty bright right here. So it looks dark over there. This is white background. So yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of the background, I mean, like just found, this room. This is actually going to be my baby nursery room, but
Uh-huh.
that's why you've got the stencils in the background. But yeah, I mean, like if I wanted to cover that up, you actually have a screen in the background where you are. So can you talk about what that is or how you got it?
Yeah. Here, well, this is one, so this is up, but I have one where you can just buy a roll. Let's see if I could get this whole thing in camera. So it's right from up here. Let's see. It is about 3 to 4 feet wide, and you could just bring this, roll it up, and then use just simple tape
Ah,
to tape it up in your background. So you could literally go like this, bring it up, and then just tape it behind you as a great source. This you could also use to bounce light off. And actually, those things are fairly inexpensive. They're roughly, I want to say 30, 40 bucks.
okay.
Which now I remember I'm going to send you a link to that.
Sure, yeah, and I'll include, you guys, if the camera and lavalier, what we mentioned already on here, if we can find the links to them, we'll go ahead and put that in the replay,
Right.
and with the recording of this, so you can go and do some research. And of course, if you click on there and you don't want to buy it, I mean, these are just suggestions, but yeah, I mean, that's definitely something I didn't think about when I was first starting the video, and you really don't want to have like a very distracting background, because I've just seen backgrounds where there's just all kinds of like clutter necessarily in the background. And if you're going to be doing a launch video, like when you see the difference between like a 6-figure launch and a 7-figure launch and just somebody who's doing a pilot launch, like the background is professional. Like they planned out each scene and each location, and the lighting is perfect and the sound is perfect, so I mean, they paid a lot. I mean, like I actually had one client who hired Suzanne Evans' team, and it cost several $1,000s for him to go for 3 days to her studio to get the professional, lighting in the background. But not everybody really has the budget to do that, or even the time to travel to go to a studio. So, I mean, a lot of times this is just like being practical, and being at home and figuring out, okay, like what can I do that's going to be easy and still look good.
All right.
Yeah. All right. So we went over lighting, we went over the camera and like some lavalier tips. What would you suggest like for tripods? If people have a camera at home, or even maybe a smartphone or something like that, should they just go to Best Buy and buy a tripod? Or like if it doesn't come with their camera, do you have any tips on how to get a good tripod?
Ooh, great question. I guess it also depends on if are they going to use it with their iPhone, or are they going to use it like with a camera that I just showed, or something equivalent. So depending on, because the iPhone tripod is very small, very, very small, and it has a different connection thing. So you could connect your iPhone, or, Samsung or whatever. So it's light. So you need an apparatus to clamp it down and then shoot. While, the professional or higher grade gear would have, a thread underneath already built in the camera. As far as tripod, I'm not too picky as far as like, once you just set it and forget it. That one I'm a little less picky on, just because most likely they're sturdy. Of course, I always like to get something that has a higher capacity, weight capacity than what you're using. So say, for instance, the camera that I showed, let's just say it's 1 pound, and the tripod capacity is 1 pound. You definitely want to get something that has a higher capacity, like 3 pounds, with your camera being just 1. Just because you never know in the future what you're going to add on to the camera, a bigger lens, a heavier lens. You probably put some And then, when you upgrade to like a wireless lavalier as opposed to a wired one, you're going to attach that to the camera. So it's going to add the payload to that tripod, and you don't want it tipping over. So you want something that has a higher capacity to what you currently have.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because I mean, when I first started out with video, I mean, I bought, there was like a Black Friday sale or whatever at Best Buy, or it might have been Walmart. I just ran out and got this tripod, and it was a cheap tripod. It's the kind that works with, like a real video camera. It's
Right.
not the kind that works with like a cell phone. There's different types. Like there's, kind of, small ones that you can kind of just attach to your iPhone or your Android, and there's, kind of larger ones. And so like this one was a larger one, and it worked, but it was cheap. I mean, it had parts break off over the years. I mean, just recently my husband had to film some video for his work and do kind of like a commercial type thing, and he has his tripod, which is a better tripod than mine, and he brought mine too because he wanted to have multiple camera angles going, and another part of mine broke off, so it's just some of these plastic things, it can be a little bit cheap. So if you are kind of just paying $10 or whatever for a tripod, then it sometimes won't serve you, at least over 5-year period.
Yeah. So, like as far as that, I could, later search online for maybe different price point tripods and then send that as a link or whatnot. And then, just in case, like if anyone has like specific questions, I don't mind if they ask those questions, and I could create a video in regards to it or something like that. That's a possibility.
Yeah, for sure. And don't forget, guys, you still have lifetime access to the Facebook group. So if you're in this course, every time we update the course, you're going to still get updates on those modules. And so there's a Facebook group, where you can connect with Jun and kind of tag him and ask him your questions. So I'm going to screen share really quick so you can see this group. If you haven't already joined it, then I do encourage you to join it. Usually I either manually add people when they buy the course, or I just let you guys request, because it is kind of a bonus. Not everybody wants to get the Facebook group updates, but this is the course. So effortless launch formula, and you can literally post. I mean, you can see, this is our reminder of the call. I'll be posting replays here. If you have a question, just tag, Jun's right here, just go ahead and tag him. And he may even be able to, give you a video response, or, just give you a response to your question. Right. So, don't forget that you have, the Facebook group. I'll also show you the dashboard. So it's been a while since you've kind of logged into the course. The dashboard area is here, and the link is at the top of every single module. And so basically, we have the 4 modules of the course. We have the learning library. So these are all the technical manuals that have little 5 to 7 minute videos, sometimes 10-minute videos of technology, different systems that you can use for your launch. So I've got that there. I've got some bonus, stuff, the pricing worksheet. So if you're worried about, how to price your stuff, and I'll also include, some resources. You'll see right under module 4, you'll see the bonus module. When we post the replay, you'll see another bonus module underneath module 4 here. And that's going to have all the links, that we talked about, just because sometimes it's hard to kind of find that in the thread in the Facebook group. So I'll go ahead and post that there. But any kind of suggestions, Jun, about sound quality? I know we talked kind of briefly about lavalier mics, but I know one of the common mistakes that I've seen people kind of fall into is that they take their iPhone or their cell phone, and they start recording a video, and it may or may not be live, but then there's like a background noise that comes, it's like a train or an airplane or whatever, and it's really disruptive. So unless they're actually unless they're plugged into a lavalier mic, I mean, it's going to pick up that background noise. So do you have any tips about sound quality?
Ooh, okay, that's a great question. Now we're going to get into the higher end lavaliers, because the higher end lavaliers, there's, so do I have a sample? I'll just use my pen here. So let's just say this is the end of a lavalier and you clip it to your lapel, like your shirt or whatnot. There's certain lavaliers that pick up omnidirectional, meaning it's going to pick up everything that way. So everything within, let's see if I could be visual. I'm a visual learner. So everything, pretty much everything right here will be captured, right? But then there's more what's called like super cardio, which means they're very like narrow. So they're really focused on your mouth and kind of you won't hear anything off the side. So if there's something like that, then you will want to get a higher, more directional lavalier mic. Of course, those higher end ones, we're talking $300-$500 for just the lavalier.
Mm-hmm.
So, or even more, depending on the technology now, and if they still have like the older versions and stuff like that. So there's that.
Yeah, and I think, especially, kind of just the difference between having a home studio and actually having like a production studio,
Right.
That's kind of where the price point, difference, comes in, because, a lot of times, if you're just a business owner and you're doing a launch video, I mean, there's only so many of those that you can do. I mean, unless you're launching all the time every quarter.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's actually where, it's an advantage to hire somebody like you and your team, to just come in and do it for you, because, you already know that they have the right equipment, and that they've already kind of invested, in making the sound and the lighting and the camera lens and all of that work, because I think that's really, and we do have like a module about leveling up the launch. And that's, when you're hiring a copywriter or, hiring somebody to do Facebook ads, or in this case, it would be hiring, somebody to do, the production of the video for you, because, if this isn't the pilot and it's actually the next, second or third iteration of your launch, you want it to look really professional. So can you talk a little bit about, like how people work with you, like when they hire you to do video?
Wow. Actually, you said something that sparked my interest that I could use as an analogy. The best example for that is like we all seen film shot like by the beach or whatever, right? And you never hear the ocean unless the filmmaker wants you to hear the ocean. Like they're capturing clear audio. But if you and I just took our phones or took our camera, we're gonna get the ocean in the background. How's that done? That's actually done with a what's called a shotgun microphone, which pinpoints directly to your mouth. And literally, this is actually what I was thinking. I could create a video where you could have it pointing directly to your mouth and you just move it to the side and I could be talking the same volume and it will barely pick me up. So and that's a little bit more like high quality sound. Now going to what you said as far as what was the question specifically?
Like, how would they work with you? If they don't want to spend, X amount, I know you're in the LA area and not everybody is in the LA area, but, if they did want to work with you and that is kind of possible, how would they do that?
Well, definitely just reach out to me. My name, number, Would you like to provide that after?
Yeah, and so basically, like, you know, in all my emails, you can always hit reply or just email me, Gina at techdoneforyou.com. And what I like to do is do an email introduction. And
Mhm.
so, you know, if you watch the replay and you just, you know, are in the LA area and just need somebody to do your launch videos for you, yeah, just go ahead and hit reply or send me an email and I'll introduce you to June because,
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's actually, it makes a huge difference in conversion, meaning, you know, how many sales you get. And JV partners don't get paid until you make a sale, you know.
Yes.
And so so if you have a pilot, you know, you may not have JV partners, you know, during that launch, but when you level up, you know, that becomes even more important. And so yeah, just email me and I can introduce you to June.
Yeah.
You know, that's a good way. But what is your process like when you start working with somebody? Like, how does, you know, what do they need to come to you with? A lot of, you know, this course, you know, talks about, okay, what do you give to your tech team, you know, if you're not going
Right.
to be doing it yourself? So what would they need to come to you with?
Well, that's a really great question because I've experienced with a lot of different individuals, and it all depends on what their goal is. So we start with what's your goal, and the other question is if they have experience with video before, because usually in the past, I don't, you know, we could talk about like coaches or business entrepreneurs in this group, right? And we're in the beginning of our career, we're always like, well, we're going to do all this, and then you just overwhelm them, and you're just like, sometimes in the past, I've actually, you know, like they're just so overwhelmed that they're like paralyzed. So for me, I always go, um, what have you experienced in the past? And then I get to know them through the process, and then such as, you know, asking them about their project. What's the intention? Is it to educate clients about them, their product or their service? Which one do you want to work on first? Which one's a higher priority for you? And then just getting how would I say it? I like to break up the steps and take some of the easier ones first, because sometimes they want to do like this project. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know how you are in front of the camera. Are you going to be comfortable? Are you going to be yourself? Are you going to be authentic? And then do you want to memorize lines, or do you want to be, you know, started with a conversation and we record those? It all depends on the person. So it's very unique in that way, where I wish I could just go, this is the steps, and it goes for everyone. But it depends on who they are and what they're doing. So I always, you know, we have a consultation and we go from there.
Yeah, well, that's a really good point because I mean, I'll just use myself as an example. You know, when I started the website for Tech Done for You, I have a free e-course called Get Your Website Ready for Affiliates Fast. And so I had a video that my husband helped me shoot, you know, with his, you know, camera and tripod. And we had 3 different angles, and I hadn't quite memorized what I was going to say, or really just, you know, even though I'm a Toastmaster, I've been a Toastmaster for years, and, you know, I'm used to speaking in front of small groups. I had written out a script and I hadn't memorized it. And so we taped the script in large font, like to, you know, basically his tripod.
Right.
And, you know, and we had me looking in like 3 different areas, and it did not look good. I mean, you could obviously see my eyes reading the script. I was not making eye contact with the camera. So that was, you know, that was an issue. And I was clearly reading. And so it wasn't good, even though we had we had the equipment, my husband helped me shoot it, you know, I had my makeup on. It's not like I was shiny or anything, you know, it's like the lighting was good and the sound was good, but my preparation as a business owner was not good. And
Right.
so that's actually something, you know, really good point, because like if you go into this and you hire even a videographer, unless they're kind of able to coach you through the
Yeah.
process, then you need to be prepared going into that.
Yeah.
You know, what are you going to say? Do you have an outline? You know, do you have a call to action at the end? Because, you know, I had it all written out, but it didn't deliver well from me reading it. And so, that was something that I ran into. And actually, when I ended up working, because I had to redo that video, because people kind of, gave me some feedback and were nice enough to say, hey, Gina, like, it looks like you're reading on here, so I'm like, okay, fair enough. And so I actually did hire, somebody in the Reno area, which is about an hour and a half away from where I live now. I commuted down, I, made, put my makeup on, she had a nice white screen on the back, she had the right camera, she had the lavalier, she literally taped my necklace so that it was in the right, spot, and she kind of helped, because we had to do multiple takes. And I rehearsed, going into that, I rehearsed, basically the same script that I was reading before, but I rehearsed it. And so that when, I redid that video, it was all the same, like content-wise, it was the same, but my delivery was so much better because she helped me say, okay, well, gesture and say, put your name and email below and get this free e-course, versus, my husband, bless his heart, was trying to help me with all the different camera angles and whatever, but it was just like, it was not a good video. And so, that's kind of, just what I experienced when I had to do multiple iterations of basically the same freebie video.
Actually, when you said, I don't know if you mind if I give some input, when you said 3 videos, I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was just like, 2 is max, but then,
Yeah, like he had like the front angle, he had like a side angle and like one other side. And so I didn't even know where to look, eye contact when I was doing.
Correct. See, that's actually what I usually will coach. And that's why, getting to know the client, there's difference. There's like, is this person better if they look at me or at the camera or none of us? Do they memorize? Do they have like you said, taping on the I, even said that, it's just like, I don't know until I've actually talked to them. And then, just getting to know who they are and what they're about and what's their best process. And then how they want to come across, because it's not like, okay, me, but then what are you trying to do? Like, what are you trying to connect? Should I look in the camera? Is this for you guys? Or is this for you, Gina? Like, do I look in the camera or do I look at the interviewer? So there's just so many different things. So it's a matching of what do you want to do with the goal of the video and how you want to come across, and then what is better for you as an individual, directly in the lens to the interviewer. So it's just balancing which one all that is, and then going, okay, this is the best presentation we're going to do with your video.
Yeah. And I definitely notice, even just as people have been posting their questions about video too, the Facebook group for this course, just subtle things like stepping out of the camera lens, stepping away and then switching speakers, like that is very distracting. So sometimes these things need to be edited and you need to have a transition rather than have all of a sudden like the stage be vacant, so and I'm not going to name any names, but I mean there was literally the switcheroo thing going on, and like the viewer is observing all of that, and so the next time you do a video like that, you want to make sure it's edited out so that there's not this like exiting out of the camera angle, just because, people only have like a short attention span. And so you have to really just grab them. And so, and I notice also, like, cause I watch a lot of YouTube, I love YouTube. And so, during my downtime, I watch a lot of YouTube, and,
what do you normally watch?
The videos, production quality doesn't have to be perfect. It's kind of like Facebook Live. There's a difference between, professional video and kind of more off the cuff type video. But in YouTube, like if the sound is bad, like if there's a background noise, if there's a humming noise, whatever it is, like I will not watch the video. But, but if, the video's, decent and the sound quality is good and there's no really weird distracting crap going on, then,
Yeah, like
then I'll
that.
definitely, then I'll definitely watch to the end of the video.
Yes. No,
Yeah.
agree. Yeah, it's all quality and depends on how you're breaking and what you want to come across. So it's always about like coaching a client. So that's very important to me. Like I'm working with two different clients. One client hasn't, well, that are fairly new. One has kind of experience with video, and the other one is totally, absolutely no idea. So for her, I'm actually taking it one step at a time and not really overwhelming. I just go, okay, what's the intent of the video? We're going to do this. And then she might want to have like certain people in the video, and I go, let's wait until we get there to worry about that, because sometimes when there are just too many steps for someone that's not new to video, they get overwhelmed. So when I consult with my clients, I just go, okay, what are we working on first, and let's focus on that. While another one is more experienced, and I go, okay, well, why don't you just do this, and then we could do some steps ahead, because we kind of need those actors when we rent that location. So it all depends. It's all, consultation and stuff like that. So, actually, now that I'm looking at this lighting, there's a few different tips that I could show you really quick. So you always want the main light to be in front of you. Of course, as you know, I'm violating some of the rules that I'm going to show you, but this is just to show you, like right now, this is just a quick setup, and it's very dramatic. It's called Rembrandt lighting. It's where you see the shadows. You don't want to do this if you're selling a module, but then we're Facebook, or we're live right now, so it doesn't really matter. But if you're trying to do a high profile video, I would have two of these on both sides, so that one, it could have flat lighting, and then I won't have any shadows, because shadows is like, oh, what mysterious, what is he, is Jun a good guy, I don't know. And then like I could actually change the lighting, so I'm going to go like this. So if it's more straight on, ideally it would be like this, but of course I'll be holding it the entire time, and I would actually put two lights side by side, so it's even one on this side and then even on that side.
Mm-hmm.
So this is dramatic lighting. This is like directly on the side. You can see that, right?
Right.
So I just using this for some tips. So you don't want to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same lighting unit, but way more shadow. So
Yeah.
is Jun trustworthy? I don't know. But then if I go like this, hey, what's up? I am. Maybe I am. Or then if it's backlighting, you don't see anything, and you just see that little halo.
Oh,
You
yeah.
a silhouette and a door, and you're like, who is that?
Yeah.
And you don't want your viewers to do that. So you want to have the main lighting in front of you. And another tip is that when I always shoot or film, the reason I put that there and the larger light source, you could actually see it in their eyes, the light source and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, sometimes you can have reflections going on, and I'll just show, just so people can see what I'm using for lighting here. I mean, this is literally just a desk lamp, and when you shut it off, I'm in the dark. It makes a huge difference. I mean, just look at that. I mean, there's so much more shadow, and I've got a window here off to the side, but, like having real lighting, and I've actually positioned it kind of above, the camera, that makes a big difference, because now you can see my face a little bit better. Yeah. Cool.
Above the camera, anywhere above the camera to the side is good. Really nice.
Nice. Well, thank you. We have about 2 minutes left. So do you have any parting takeaways for our students of Effortless Launch Formula?
Any parting? Ooh, that's a loaded question.
Parting words or takeaways. I mean, I know we've talked about lighting, we've talked about equipment, we've talked about budget. I mean, we've talked about a lot of stuff. So, kind of just any tips to leave people with.
Any tips?
Yeah.
Well, if they have any questions, again, just feel free to reach out, because I don't know what basically I don't know what each, like, just like if I was to consult a client, I don't know where they are on their journey. So I don't know, are they going to be shooting with their phone and they want to maximize what they can get with their phone? Because there's a few different tips then. But if I gave tips, then I'll be alienating someone else who has a camera. So what's a great tip? Lighting, sound. I mean, there's just so many different things, right? Yeah, for lighting, shoot near a window. Try to get some bounce boards so you could bounce all the lights back and forth, then make it even. For sound, definitely get a lavalier or shotgun, depending on how far you are from the camera.
Shotgun microphone.
Shotgun microphone, yes.
Yeah.
That's called shotgun microphone. Yeah, not a shotgun. So sound, light, camera. Get a camera that has really high sensitivity to light so that you don't have to bring as much light in, because that, you don't need it. You technically won't even need to shoot near the window if you have a camera that, like my professional camera that I would bring out to shoot. I can literally shoot in the dark and it'll still come out. So as opposed to right now on a MacBook and it's barely picking up any light. So sound, light, yeah, I guess just making sure how you work and knowing how you work, who you are in front of the camera is the most important thing. That's what I would say. And yeah, if I could help people, let me know.
For sure. And, June is being very kind of humble right now, but I know he's done really high-end, quality video production for, many, many professionals across multiple industries. So, so definitely if you are interested in working with June directly, I mean, he is in the LA area, so of course it's regional, but just shoot me an email, Gina at TechDoneForYou, and I'll do an introduction. So thank you so much, June, for joining us today. I know this is a lot of technical information for folks, but I know that a lot of people do home video. Yes. In their studio. And so this is hopefully some helpful information. Of course, post in the Facebook group or send us an email if you have any questions.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned that if they needed help personally for their own home studio and want me to walk it through specifically to their thing, reach out to Gina and she'll do an email introduction and I get to know who you are and what you're about and what you need help in.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much, June. I'll be respectful of your time and we'll end on time, but thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. All right. Thank you.